Hey everybody, Matt Malco back here, NBC Sports Bay Area, going to bring you a 49ers update as Wednesday approaches. 49ers get back on the practice field to start preparations to face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But first, this is brought to you by Canyon Club Brewery, restaurant, beer garden, all in the family-friendly location in Moraga, California. Come by, check it out. I live right down the street. It's one of my go-to spots. And also Canyon Club Brewery coming soon to the Livery in Danville. So I'll be sure to mention when that is up and running. Should be a great location. Okay, so there's one thing that I didn't really talk about yesterday with the news that the 49ers acquired Khalil Davis, a defensive tackle from the Houston Texans. One thing to keep an eye on is just kind of maybe the long-term health of Kevin Givens. He's been dealing with a core muscle injury, and he did not play in that game week 8 against the Dallas Cowboys. So when you look at the depth on the defensive line, that's one area that maybe we should look at. That I think Khalil Davis and Kevin Givens are similar types of players. And so by going and getting somebody who is familiar with the 49er system, having come from Houston, head coach D'Amico Ryans, that might be an area where the 49ers feel like they need to kind of insulate themselves with a little bit more depth at the defensive tackle position. But when you look at it, they didn't make the big splash on Tuesday at the trading deadline. So their defensive line right now consists of Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott as the starters in the interior. And then Givens, of course, is one of the backups along with Kalia Davis, not to be confused with Khalil Davis. Kalia Davis and Evan Anderson. And then, of course, their outside guys are Bosa, Leonard Floyd, and Robert Beal, with Sam Okwanu really kind of the third outside pass rusher who can slide in and rush from the inside in nickel situations. And, of course, 49ers expect to get Yetur Gross-Matos back soon. So that's one area of the 49ers, why the 49ers would make that trade, just to get another person in there who can be a rotational player. So Khalil Davis comes over for a 2026 seventh round draft pick. Let's now look at where the 49ers are from an injury standpoint. They're getting some players back this week, most notably Jauan Jennings. He missed the past 2 games with a psoas muscle strain. Now, that's a hip flexor muscle, and he injured it in that game, the Thursday night game against Seattle, and hasn't played since. But he was back on the practice field for a 49ers workout, about an hour-long workout. And so that's a big add to the 49ers, with Brandon Ayuk obviously exiting with the ACL injury that'll keep him out for the remainder of the season. In 6 games this year, Jauan Jennings, 404 yards receiving. Of course, a lot of them, 175 came against the Rams in that game with Deebo Samuel out. And then the next game against New England had 88 yards receiving as well. So that is a big add. Also, Jake Moody will be back. 49ers made some roster moves on Tuesday. One signals that Moody's return is imminent, as the 49ers released the kicker Anders Carlson off of the practice squad. They had bumped him up a couple of times the last 2 games in order to handle the kicking duties. That was after Matthew Wright, their first choice, got injured making a tackle. And now Jake Moody is back. Jake Moody was never placed on injured reserve. They just kept him on the 53-man roster, deactivated him for game days. But with Anders Carlson leaving the building, that is a sign that Moody will be back. And where this is kind of important, I think, for the 49ers, especially with their problems on special teams, Moody, assuming he's okay, returning from the high ankle sprain on his kicking foot, the left leg. So Moody this season had 23 touchbacks on 28 kickoffs, whereas Carlson had 10 kickoffs in his 2 games, and only 2 of those were touchbacks. So that's a big thing. Carlson did a good job by and large, making all 5 of his field goal attempts, including a couple of long ones, a 55-yarder and a 50-yarder. He missed 1 extra point. But even though he was kicking those long field goals, he just didn't have the leg to put it into the end zone and create touchbacks. And that's something that gets more difficult to do as the weather starts to turn cool, the ball doesn't carry as far. And so Jake Moody, all signs pointing to him being back with the team when they travel to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday. Some of the other moves in order to create the roster space for Khalil Davis, the 49ers released Jaylen Graham. Probably not a big surprise there, considering he was one of the last guys who came to the team on this current 53-man iteration. 49ers brought Jaylen Graham back, and now they release him. Let's see if they get him back on the practice squad. Also, the 49ers re-sign Tashaun Gipson, the starting safety of the past couple of years. Now, he has not played this season yet. He was slapped with a 6-game suspension in the offseason for violating the NFL's policy on performance-enhancing substances. And so he did not, what he said at the time that he was suspended for those 6 games is that he acknowledged that he took a supplement that he thought was safe and was within the NFL's policy, but he said that it was no way related to performance enhancing. He doesn't want to cheat the game. He just made a mistake. He said that the NFL's performance enhancing drug policy is very clear and he takes full responsibility. So he signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he went through that 6-game suspension with them. After the 6 games, he's on the commissioner's exempt list as he can practice, and then the team at some point has to make a decision on to bring him to the 53. Before it got to that point, the Jacksonville Jaguars decided, you know what, there's not a spot for you on the team, and they released him. And so the 49ers bring back Tashaun Gipson. And the 49ers have kind of played some games with that safety position, if you recall, because the season started with Talanoa Hufanga being on injured reserve, or actually he wasn't on injured reserve. He was injured to start the season, but they kept him on the 53-man. But what the 49ers did was they signed a veteran safety, Tracy Walker, to their practice squad. And the rule is you can bump a player up from the practice squad 3 times before you have to put him on the 53-man roster permanently in order for him to suit up for a game. And so the 49ers started off with Tracy Walker. He's a veteran who played with the Lions. He was available for the first couple of games, and then they released him from the practice squad when Talanoa Hufanga got healthy. He was ready to go. And then when Hufanga had this recent wrist injury that places him on IR, the 49ers sign Adrien Amos, a veteran guy who played for the Bears. And so he was active this last week. And then in the meantime, they have an undrafted rookie, Jalen Mahoney, who has been brought up from the practice squad too. So 49ers have decided to fill the backup safety positions with guys from the practice squad, and they just kind of go through them. First, like I said, first it was Tracy Walker, then it was Mahoney, and then Adrien Amos, and now it's Tashaun Gipson. So I would say look for Tashaun Gipson to fill some sort of role for the 49ers. Maybe not Sunday. We'll see how he practices, what kind of shape he's in, and all of that. But I don't know that a guy who had been the starter at free safety for the 49ers the past 2 seasons, I don't know if he steps back into any kind of role on defense. I kind of doubt it. I would think that the 49ers would want to continue to go with those young safeties, Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa, but where they need help, they believe, is at the depth issue. So I would assume that at least, at some point, it'll be Gipson as the primary backup ahead of George Odom. And then the 49ers will have to make a decision what they want to do when Talanoa Hufanga comes back, if he comes back. So that's kind of the injury roundup for this. I went through all that. And I didn't mention that, yes, Christian McCaffrey is back on the practice field. He had his first full practice on Wednesday. John Feliciano back as a backup offensive lineman. The 49ers opened the practice windows and designated both of those players for return on Monday. They went through about an hour-long practice on Monday to start gearing up, and I would expect those guys to be on the field Sunday or at least in uniform, Sunday when the 49ers face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as well as Jennings, Moody, and then we'll see with Kevin Givens. There was some thought that maybe Givens could be headed to injured reserve, but I think right now the addition of Khalil Davis is more of an insurance policy. A little bit surprised, I guess, that Houston would part ways with him for a seventh round draft pick, not this coming season, but the year after that, 2026, when Houston is still very much in the mix for a playoff spot. They have their eyes set on the postseason, but the 49ers found a bargain, I guess, and a guy that can fit into their system as a backup defensive tackle. All right, so that's it. Thanks again for watching this video. Please subscribe, turn on your notifications, and like and comment. And we'll be back at you later in the day with the full 49ers practice report and everything else that kind of sums up the Wednesday in Santa Clara. And that's it for now.